Hi everybody, we meet again. All right, so again, I'm one Cikgu Adelina, okay, but you can call me Teacher Ad. So for this particular session, I will be sharing with you on paper 3 from SPM Trial English Language 2023 by Negeri Terengganu. Okay, so I already prepared two sets of question for speaking so that you can see the difference between set 1 and set 2, and there will be a little bit of variety of questions that you might encounter with during your SPM examination. Okay, this is also a good practice for you to do because sometimes we some students think that the question might be quite the same all out throughout. If you will have 3 days of speaking test, the question will be quite the same. Actually, it's not. So there will be a variety of questions, and at the same time, also be sharing some tips on how to go about with the speaking test. All right. Okay. So let me proceed. Okay. Now, for your information, for English language speaking test, students uh, are supposedly to be in pairs, to be in pairs, and one speaking assessment session will take up around 13 to 15 minutes, right? Depending on how how you answer the questions which are being posed to you. Okay, so before uh, without further ado, let's start with speaking, sharing session with set 1. Okay, now in speaking assessment, there are actually 3 parts. The first part is when part 1 is where the interlocutor will be asking you question about your personal details. So for your information, for speaking test, there will be 2 assessors. One assessor um, will be holding the biggest range of marks, where students are actually being assessed in three components, in 3 parts, which is your grammar, your vocabulary, and your communicative competence. Uh, your vocabulary means the words that you use depending on based on the topic or theme that is being given to you. For grammar wise, we are looking at students' usage of structures of sentences. Are you using present tense? Are you using past tense? Sometimes there's a mixture of both tenses. For communicative competence, we want to see whether students are able to communicate well. Do they understand the task given to them? Um, how do you do your turn taking, especially in the discussion part, right? Okay, so let's go to part 1. So now in part 1, we call this as a general question part. The students, both students will be tested on, will be asked questions about themselves, their personal information. So this one will take about 3 to 4 minutes. And question for phase 1, for part 1, is actually the same. It's quite the same. And I've never seen that it changes from years. It's basically asking what is your name, and then where do you live, how do you come to school. Very, very simple question, just to make the students be engaged in the speaking task throughout. Okay. Now, for example, if the teacher asks you, usually we will ask the student's name, like, can you please introduce yourself? So you can just start off with, my name is what. But if you feel that you want to explain further, so usually I will advise students is to introduce themselves and just inform the teacher what should you be called you throughout the session. For example, uh, what is your name? Okay, my name is Adelina binti Adlan, but teacher can call me Ed, or you can call me Ed. So basically, the interlocutor will be using the name that you want us to call you throughout the session. Okay, so throughout the session, the teacher will be referring to me as Ed. Okay, other than that, we'll be asking about where do you live. Normal questions, I live in Keramat, or I live in Sungai Buloh, or I live in Kampung what. Okay, these are the questions, these types of questions. How do you come to school? And there are also backup prompts. Now, backup prompts is actually used when students could not understand the main question. There would not be any how you say translation of sentences or words in BM, because this is a speaking session and students are actually required to speak and answer in English, all English, no other languages. All right. Okay, let's go to the second phase. Now, in the second phase, the question is a little bit more higher of level, where we call this as your daily routine. Okay. Now, in a daily routine question, these are the things that usually will be asked, and one of it is your pastime activity. Now, for phase two, the question for daily routine may differ from day to day. So, probably today, the first day, you'll be asked about your pastime activities. The next day could be asked about something else, probably uh, about what do you basically do every day, and you have to understand the word of pastime activity. Right, pastime activity means during your free time, what do you do? All right. Okay, now the main questions such as like this: what do you usually do in your free time? So probably you could answer, during my free time I usually read novels, or during my free time I usually play online games. A very simple answer, direct to the question. Now, where do you go to relax? I usually relax in my room. Or you could say I usually relax by going out with my friends to cafes, to my favorite cafe. Then give the name of the cafe. uh, where do you usually go for an outing? I usually go to the malls with my friends. So for phase two, students will be asked in accordance, candidate A and candidate B. Usually we'll start off with candidate A. After candidate A has answered, then we'll continue with candidate B. So the teacher will actually choose what question is suitable to be asked, or which question should be asked to the students. Now, like what I've mentioned earlier, if the main question could not be understood by you, therefore your teacher will use backup prompts. Okay, backup prompts are a little bit easier, very more direct to the point sentences. Okay, okay, now let's go to part two. Now, in part two, this is the task becomes a little bit more difficult, because this is more of an individual task. And during this part two, students will, for each individual, we will give uh, for both students, it would take around 3 to 4 minutes. And my advice is, usually for individual tasks, students will be given a topic to talk about, and bullets of questions that students can use it as a reference. Yeah? But if you feel that you are not someone who can memorize very well, so my advice would be for you to just use back the question in the bullets, and and answer it, bullet by bullet. It will be better. It will be more, you will feel more relaxed. There will be more in accordance, so you would not be rushing yourself. Okay, just use back the question. For example, if the question is asking about your favorite book, so what book do you read? Usually we don't use a textbook as a favorite book. Yeah, my advice, my suggestion would be a storybook, a comic probably, that you usually and you constantly be reading at home. Okay, for example, what is the title of the book, of your favorite book? If you are an ardent fan of Harry Potter, then you say the title of the book is Harry Potter and what. Or if you like to read something about historical novels, then you give the title of that particular book. If you are not uh, a novel reader, then could be a comic. We can still accept that, as long as it's in the genre of books. Okay, so when you first read it, I first read it when I was in Form 1. Okay, if you are a Harry Potter fan, so you must have been following the the volumes of it, volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. Okay, so why you like the book? I like the book because what? So like what I've mentioned just now, just use back the question here as your starting sentence whenever you want to answer the question. Okay. Now, is reading book is good? If reading books is good for teenagers, so definitely you'll be giving a very positive answer. Yes, definitely reading book is good for teenagers because it gives us knowledge. It gives us information. It helps me to improve my vocabulary. It helps me to improve my sentences. It helps me to write a good essay. Okay, these are very, very logic answers that you can actually give to the examiner. Okay, now after after candidate A or the first candidate have finished doing answering the question, so there will be another question which is a very general question will be asked by the teacher to the second candidate or candidate B of what is your favorite book and why. So that is why when your friend is doing the first task of answering the question, candidate B should not be ignoring your friend. You should be listening what is actually your friend is saying, because sometimes you can actually use back whatever that your friend has mentioned in his or her answer. Okay, so this is actually for candidate A. So candidate A will have their own session of answering the question. Now, what about candidate B? Candidate B comes later, and they will also be given another different topic to be for them to talk about. So, like for this co-curricular activity, co-curricular activity is what you might ask your teacher. So, your teacher will be answering COCO. So you know what is COCO, isn't it? All right, co-curricular activities, which you always have it on Wednesdays, probably after school and until evening. We have the uniform units and so forth. So when you talk about co-curricular activities, there are three types of co-curricular activities. The first one is the uniform units. If you're in KRS, are you in the Scouts, are you in the Girl Guides? And then you have the clubs and societies, the English Language Society, the History Society, the nature club, for example. And another one is sports and games. Sports and games could be netball, basketball, and so forth. So is it clear? Right, when you talk about co-curricular activity. So now when you talk about the activity that you are involved in, use a very simple sentence. The activity that I involved, the co-curricular activity that I involved in is what? So if you are a very, very active member of the uniform unit. So what is the uniform unit that you took part? If you are KRS, then I'm involved with KRS in my school. Just use the word KRS. There is no specific word for English for that. Okay. Now, what do you do? When do you do this activity? I always do this activity every Saturday or every Wednesday after 2:30 p.m. or after school. It's still answerable. Okay, what do you like about this activity? Okay, uh, what I like about this activity is that I can make new friends. I learn how to be disciplined, for example. Okay, and the last one, if co-curricular activities are important for students, yes, it teaches us to become disciplined. It teaches us to become tolerant. It teaches us to become responsible. So sometimes usually for question number 4, it is more of a kebat question because students have to think logically. So why in schools, students are actually, you know, um, required to take part in co-curricular activities. They must participate. They must have these 3 co-curricular activities to be involved in. Why is it? I think your teachers in school, would have informed you before. And I think it's very logic that you answer that when you take part in these activities, you learn to become what it helps you build inside you. Okay, all right. You understand? I think I hope my explanation is quite clear. Okay, let's go to the third part. Now, the third part of the speaking test is a discussion part where 4 to 5 minutes will be taken uh, where students actually have to answer 2 parts. And the first part is for you to discuss, and you are given a situation or a topic with ideas that is being prompted out and given to you, and you actually have to discuss with one another the relation of the ideas with the main ideas. For example, for this question, why do people become content creators? Okay, content creators are like those YouTubers, those influencers. They come up with contents for their social media accounts, and there are reason for them to do that, and the reasons given are all there in six. And the two of you, actually, the pairs, have to discuss with one another which is the reason why people do content creators. Okay, for example, what we are looking for in students is that their turn taking. And the turn taking here means how you pose question and how the discussion and the speaking the speaking task is being done, from one to another, the flow of the discussion, is there any is it fluent enough, is the information well explained, are you able to gauge the interaction between you and your friend. That is why when we do speaking test, the discussion part, it's better for you to be doing it with your someone that you are very comfortable with, whom you can actually choose as your partner. And if you feel if there are some of the contents here which is not, you yourself have problems with, you are actually given a minute to ask the teacher, okay, what does it mean, what is the meaning of the word, or what does the phrase means, before you start doing the discussion. Okay, now how do we answer for this particular question, and how do turn taking looks like? Now, for example, if I were to start, I might be saying like this. Now, why do people become content creators? Now, in my opinion, people become content creators because they just want to gain popularity. Okay. I might be asking my partner, what do you think? Do you agree with me? So your partner will be answering, yes, I think I agree with you. Most people become content creators because they just want to gain some popularity. But in my opinion, they become content creators not only to gain popularity, but at the same time they want to earn some income. Usually those who are content creators, their income will be a little bit more higher compared to others. What do you think? See, the turn taking takes place, and you could see that there's a flow from one point to another. Okay, until you complete all the six contents that is being given, or if you feel that you are not very sure of, you are not very confident of explaining others, then you just choose the most dominant one that you are very, very comfortable of doing so. Okay. All right. Then if you were to continue again, but in my opinion, I feel that sometimes people become content creators because they just want to motivate others. Because at times, some people, they do not have a very high self-confidence. Therefore, by becoming content creators, they could motivate others in many ways, probably in terms of opinions, in terms of responsibilities, and when they come up with contents, they might motivate others to follow what they are doing. See, uh, I'm not saying that you should, one person should be dominating another. It should be a form of discussion. So there would be a give and take situation. You are not doing it all by yourself. You should be asking your friend a question. Do you agree or disagree with your friend? So this is what we meant by turn taking. And the main point, or the main objective for having the discussion part, the discussion session in this part 3, is to see whether students are able to relate with one another. Can they be tolerant with one another? Are they able to, agree at some point? Are they, would not be agreeing at some point? And we want to see students to be able to communicate well. because this kind of exercise is very good because this will be continue later when they further their studies in colleges or in universities, and it is more of preparing them for a real life uh, later when they completed their form 5 years. Okay. All right. So this is one of the ways. Like what I've mentioned before, turn taking is what we are actually looking for in discussion, because we want to see a flow going by rather than you answer one by one, and after one person speaks and then another one person speaks, another one person speaks, there is no discussion there. So you have to understand when we talk, when we say discussion, it has to be in a discussion form of uh, presentation. All right. Okay, now usually after the 4 and 5 minutes is done, once you have done with the discussion, another question will be given to the pair. This is what we call as the KBAT question. All right. Now, for example, for this particular content creator thing, many people are keen on becoming content creators as they would gain popularity and make money. Uh, Here are some reasons why people become content creators and a question for you to discuss. So this is actually the starting of before you start doing the discussion. All right, for your discussion, this is what will be given to you and inform you earlier so that you have the idea. So if you look at the mind map here, you can see that there are 6 altogether given. Show creativity, motivate others, you want to share information. Talking about content creators, you're also sharing information. Building self-confidence, some people, they are so afraid of meeting others physically, but by becoming a content creator, it helps to build a little bit of self-confidence in them, because they don't have to meet people, they just would be doing it online. Okay, you can be an invisible content creator without people knowing who you are. Okay, you're also doing it for to earn some income, and if I'm not mistaken, most content creators actually do make money, do make earn a lot of money when they become content creators. You have gaining popularity. Okay, so these all 6 are the what do you call as enhancers for students to use when it comes to discussion. And my advice and suggestion would be, if you have uh, this kind of questions, you already have this, it's better, it's good, and it will be better that you do a lot of practices in class to see how to go about with discussion, the flow of the discussion. Okay. All right. Okay, now can I make the slide a little bit smaller so that I can see what happens? Okay, now let's look at the KBAT question. Now, usually when students have done the discussion part, they have completed the 4 to 5 minutes, you'll be given another question for to be answered, and we are not looking for a, how do you say, we are not looking for an exact answer, but as long as it just answers, it has some relation to the question that we are asking, then it is considered correct. Okay, like for this, um, we've been talking about the reasons why people become content creators. Now let's hear your opinion on this. This is more of a personal opinion, no more of that particular discussion. You're already out of discussion, but the discussion question and this question is actually quite interrelated. Okay, how does the advancement of digital platforms affect people's life? For this particular question, the level of word being used and the level of question being used is a little bit higher. Okay, but kemahiran berfikir aras tinggi, where students have to think out of the box a little bit. Right now, I think everyone knows that with the advancement of digital platforms, it does affect people's life. Okay, a lot, where most people, some people, they totally depend on digital platforms. They don't, they are totally depending on digital platforms. They don't read newspapers anymore, they don't listen to radios, they only depend on their handphones, on their gadgets. and they get news only from online. We have not, most of us are not using the conventional type of reading. We would basically do like, not when you read novels, you do it online, you don't read books anymore. So that's what it meant by this question. How does the advancement of digital platforms affect people's life? Does it affect uh, a lot? Does it affect uh, totally affect people's life? We don't depend anymore on the conventional way of getting information. So set your mind should be set like that. Okay, all right. Okay, I think that's all for set one. Now I will continue with set two. In set two, like what I've mentioned earlier, the first part of the general question, again, 3 to 4 minutes, the question is the same. Your name, where do you live, your self-introduction. When you go into phase number two, again, phase number two is the same question as the first set, meaning that sometimes the question would be the same and sometimes it might not be, especially for the daily routine part. Okay, so I'm not going through this again, but this is how it looks like for in a real life situation, in a real exam. This can look like this. Okay, but the difference would be in the individual task for part two, where for the second set, you can see that the question is a little bit easier. You'll be talking about your best friend. Okay, you have to name your best friend, how your friend looks like. So how your friend looks like, it depends on how you want to describe your friend. Okay, if you want to say that my friend looks very friendly, my friend is tall, dark and handsome. This is just a very simple description of your friend. Okay, how you feel when spending time with your friend? I feel happy. I feel comfortable. I feel appreciated. So you're talking about the nouns. You're using nouns. You're describing them. Adjective words. If having a best friend is important for people, why? If you disagree with it, then you could probably say that having best friend is not important for people because um, they do not want to to share their personal matters with a best friend, for example. Or I'm not a person who likes to make friends with others. It's understandable and it is still acceptable. Okay, it can be pros, it can be a cons. It's either you agree or disagree. It's up to you. It doesn't matter. Now, for candidate B, you might get question like my favorite place. So when you talk about your favorite place, it could be your own home, it could be your room, it could be an a cafe that you like to go, or probably your favorite place is your school, right? When do you normally go there? So if you are going to give your home as your favorite place, I stay here and I'm basically here every day. So if you're talking about a cafe that you like to go, I usually go to the cafe like once a week. Okay. Now, what do you enjoy about the place? If you're talking about your house, you like the ambience of the house, you like the situation of the house. It's very quiet, especially your room. Is it important to relax after studying? Yes. To rest your mind, to rest your body. Everything is about you yourself. So that's why I said the beauty of English is that questions given are all based on your own particular experience. Okay? Alright? Okay, now let's go to part three. Now in part three, a little bit differ compared to set one. You can see in set one, you're asking about content creators, but for this, you're talking about gardening. Um, these are the states that I'm using for this time of around for this sharing is basically not have not been asked before, and you can see there's a variety of questions that can be asked in your speaking test. So you should not be very rigid with the items or the themes that you are going to practice in school. So this can be one of them. Now, I know gardening is not something good for us, isn't it? I'm not, uh, okay, scrape that off. I'm not saying that gardening is not good for us, but probably you are not a person who likes gardening. But we try to imagine for those who like gardening. Like for me, I do not like gardening, but I think during COVID event that day, it just teaches me how important gardening is, because we cannot go out and buy food freely as before. So we have to plant our own food. And gardening is actually a good way to, a very therapeutic way to relax your mind and to relax yourself. Okay, so if your partner knows how to go about with this question, let your partner start first. If you feel you're not very confident yet, just wait for your friend to finish, then you continue. So your friend should be helping another friend by prompting them. So you have to prompt each other. Yeah? Don't keep quiet and just dominate the discussion. You have to help your friend as well. Okay, remember that. Now, if you were to talk about why gardening is good for us, then you're talking about patience. Definitely, it's about patience, because when you plant something, it takes you a few months for the plant to grow and for you to get, whatever that you have planted. It's either vegetables or fruits. It takes time, so it does teach you how to become patient. A form of exercise, to relax our mind, to relax our body. When we squat down, when we plant something, it does actually is a form of exercise. But if you feel that you cannot explain about not a form of exercise, then do not discuss about it. Just ignore. Okay. Strengthen relationship with who? If you are doing it with your family members, then strengthen relationship with family members. Lower stress level. Some people, I think, a research being done by scientists saying that by looking at green things, it does actually helps to lower your stress level. When you look at plants, when you look at the things that you have planted, when it bears the fruit, when it bears the vegetables, you might lower down your stress level because you feel happy. Okay, help Mother Earth. You don't have to use. Now there are many uh, fertilizers that are being used, and one of it is by using organic fertilizers. You don't have to use chemical fertilizers. So like what I've mentioned, probably a form of exercise and helping Mother Earth is something that we are not very fluent with, and we are not very uh, uh, good at explaining. So do not use this. So don't discuss these two in your discussion. Right now, a source of food, yes, definitely it's a source of food, because you plant your own vegetables, you plant your own fruits. You are actually providing a source of food for yourself. So when you start discussing, you can just, you don't have to ask the teacher, actually, teacher, can I start? No, no, you don't have to. You can just straight away, okay, let me start. In my why is gardening good for us? Now, in my opinion, I feel that gardening is good for us because it teaches us to become patient. Because when we plant something, we can't expect the plant to grow very fast, and we can't expect to get whatever that we have planted to bear very fast as well. It might take a few months. Do you agree? Okay. You wait for your friend to answer. So your friend would be agreeing with you. Yes, I think I agree with you. And another reason why gardening is good for us because it helps to give us a source of food. We don't have to go and buy, and we're able to save up some money, because the food that the plants or the vegetables or the fruits that we have planted actually can become a source of food, and we do not have to go out and buy. See, there's certain taking there, and everybody is giving their own personal opinion, and that falls under the category of communicative competence. Okay, other than your fluency, other than your vocabulary, other than your grammar, everything comes in together as well. Okay. All right. So now this is the question, the KBAT question that is related to gardening. Now, to what extent can a hobby become a source of income? Okay. Some students, they are very, very a bit of a problem when the word extent is being used. How to answer this question, teacher? Okay, students, when we ask the question, to what extent can a hobby become a source of income, we are actually uh, we just want to know whether do you understand that can a hobby becomes a source of income? Can a hobby become a source of income or not? So you might say, yes, a hobby can become a source of income because nowadays, most people are beginning to plant their own food. That is already answering for the question to what extent. For those who are able to understand the word extent, you might be answering the question like this. Um, to what extent can a hobby become a source of income? In my opinion, to the extent of some would give up their job and become a full-time farmer and later make it into a business. So that's what the word extend can be. If the student can or able to answer the word extent on their own. But if the student doesn't understand, then you can just say that, a hobby a hobby can become a source of income because nowadays people do not want to go out because nowadays fruits and vegetables are quite expensive. So gardening is very good, is good for us. That is also answering the question. All right, so you don't have to worry about the word extend there. And your teacher in front of you would actually help you to rephrase the sentence if they feel that you have some problems in understanding it. Okay, all right. So I think that is all for the speaking session, the speaking test explanation. And I hope that my explanation is clear enough for you to see. Do not get panic when you see the third the third part of the test, which is discussion, because sometimes students when they see the mind map, they become panic and they become so stressful to the extent where they cannot answer the question. Just take your time, read. If you feel there are certain things that you have some difficulties to answer or difficulties to understand, then do not use that particular content. Just proceed to those which you understand better. Okay, all right. So, okay, students. So I think that is all for today. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Um, I wish you all the best in your speaking test that will be soon. Okay, that will be soon. So I think somewhere in January. Okay, so take care. Bye.